Why talk about church and politics? The last reason, because Jesus is Lord over all of life, including politics. Think about how much your life is impacted by politics and policies. If Jesus has nothing to say about that one thing that is most largely impacting your life, then I'd like to find a different king. I need a worldview and a king that has something to say about that which most radically affects my life every day. Every day, my life and your life is shaped and impacted by politics. And more in our day, there is an evilness being imposed on us that at some point, good men and good women in the church will be required to stand up and say, I can't do this anymore. I will violate my conscience. You do realize that we've gone way past the line that the colonies drew when they said, we're done. I mean, thinking men are asking uncomfortable questions that I don't even have answers for. I'm like, I don't know. But that's a good question. You should be thinking about that. You should be wrestling with it. Don't close your eyes. Don't bury your head in the sand. That never does anybody any good. But friends, it's time for the church to walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. And to think more in more sophisticated terms, in more intelligent terms, in more biblical and theological terms, in relationship to Jesus and politics, lest we silence our voice and watch the culture burn around us. There's a text in Ezekiel chapter 33, I believe, 32, 33, somewhere in there, that talks about the blood of the people being on the head of the watchman. If the watchman stands up and warns the city, the blood of the destruction is on the head of the city and those who ignored the warning. But if the watchman stands on the wall and silently watches the enemy penetrate and then destroy the city, the blood of the city is on his head. Friends, that's not just a word for me, that's a word for us as the church. And there will be uncomfortable and difficult implications and ramifications for that I'm not even sure I've fully worked out, but we're going to begin working them out together so that we might be found thinking biblically, discerning wisely, and acting more faithfully in a crazy culture who's lost its mind and currently rebelling against God. You need to stop looking at candidates in terms of personalities and start looking at candidates in terms of God's judgment. Personalities come and go. Policies politicians make last for a very long time, and that should implicate the decisions you make. Politics is one way we can obey or disobey the greatest commandment. That's why we should care about it. And number two, our hope is not in the one who sits in the White House, because we know the one who sits on the throne. And because we know the one who sits on the throne, we need to think carefully how we exercise our responsibility to cast a vote and a voice about who sits there. And then we need to do our job as the founders called us to in holding them accountable, not just to the standards of our nation, but to the standards of God himself. Lest we hate our country in our silence. Hey everybody, Pastor Josh here. If you enjoyed that clip, you can check out the full sermon right here.